Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to do a beer that is half Norwegian, half Scottish, so a very good combination from two countries that have got on well together over the last kind of 100 years at least, or probably even longer than that. But for this review, for the Norwegian side of things, we are going to return to Amundsen Bryggeri from Norway, and for the Scottish side we are going to go to Fierce Beer, who are from Dyce, just outside of Aberdeen, where I started my chemistry studies about 10 years ago now, a long time. But this particular beer is called the Stardust Galaxies, and it's a New England IPA coming in at 6% ABV. I've had some very positive experiences with both of these breweries before. Amundsen, of course, are very well known for the New England IPAs. Fierce Beer, a very capable brewery. In my mind, you know, whenever I think about Fierce Beer, I always think about their fruit beers and stuff like this actually, although recently they have been doing more IPAs, and they're very good at dark beers as well, so a very capable Scottish brewery. These guys were just starting up at the time that I was leaving Aberdeen actually, but a very good Scottish brewery, and it's cool to see these guys collaborating, you know, two oil countries basically starting to work together once again. So yeah, really cool to come across this beer. When I saw that this was a Fierce Beer collaboration, that was the main reason I bought this one. I got this at Kiosk over in Copenhagen, which always has a very good selection of Amundsen, and I have seen a couple of Fierce Beers kind of popping in there as well, so I'll need to make more of an effort to review more of these over the next little while. But my first review from Amundsen in about 6 months, and my first review from Fierce Beer in just about a year in fact. So yeah, looking forward to this one, and I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done, both from Amundsen and from Fierce Beer. No doubt I will add some more in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for the Norwegian beers and one for the Scottish beers. This beer will appear in both because it's half and half. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Amundsen Bryggeri first off then. So as I've told you before, Amundsen Bryggeri are based in Oslo in Norway, the capital city, and the brewery is part of the Akerhus Group, which owns a number of bars and restaurants around Oslo. So the main men in this company are Ole Johan Torlefsen, Bore Jensen and Tom Erik Andresen, and the first brewery was part of a gastropub in Stortingsgatan, and this was just a very small operation. In fact, you can still go there. It's called the Amundsen Spisery, and it's right in front of the old town hall, close to the Oslo waterfront rather. And it's a really nice pub actually, very good food, a good selection of Amundsen beers, and a couple of other kind of craft beers from around Norway as well. But the key man in getting this place established was Tom Alfred Oimo, who had been a home brewer for a number of years. And the brewery expanded, and by 2015 they were producing around 200,000 litres of beer per year, and they'd become quite well established within Norway, having opened up a larger brewery out at Nydalen. In 2016 though, the parent company purchased the property company Hauketo Eiendom, and with this they acquired the Bjornerud Vines number 14 property, which literally translates into English as the Bjornerud Way number 14, and they purchased this in Hauketo in the south of Oslo. But this was turned into a 3,500 square metre brewery, and the brewing there began in late 2016, with the new brewery capacity being around 1 million litres of beer per year. The brewery equipment came from Braukon in Germany, and the canning and bottling lines were brought in from Italy. The total investment in this site was apparently 16 million Norwegian kroners, which is, what is that? That would be around 1.5 million euros, maybe a little bit more than that actually. But the managing director of the brewery is Jeffrey Jansen van Vuren, and Matthew Thomas and John Hudson are the others involved in the daily running of the brewery. But the artwork on the cans is apparently designed by the American Peter John de Villiers, and this is, you know, the Amundsen beers are very recognisable for this artwork, and these guys are definitely one of the really established Norwegian craft breweries these days. It's probably fair to say that this brewery is probably the most recognised Norwegian craft beer brand these days, apart from maybe Untappd, but they were bought over, of course, by one of the larger Norwegian breweries, in fact. So yeah, that's all you really need to know about Amundsen, a very, very well established Norwegian craft brewery and doing some pretty damn good New England IPAs these days. So make sure you check out their Facebook link and websites and stuff in the description below, and that'll keep you up to date with all the latest goings on there. On to the Scottish side of this beer then. So Fierce Beer, as I mentioned to you before, these guys are based in Dyce in Aberdeen, and they began life as the homebrewing experiments of David Grant, who'd worked for many years in the oil industry. He'd been homebrewing since March 2013, and after hosting a beer and food pairing dinner in May of 2015, his beer received really kind of rave reviews, and he decided to go professional because of the quality of the feedback that he was getting. But David is joined at the brewery by Dave McGarry, who'd also worked in the oil industry, but he used his redundancy package to put himself on a brewing course at Brew Lab in Sunderland. In April of 2016, they moved into the brewery in the Kirkhill Industrial Estate in Dyce, which is to the northwest of Aberdeen, very close to Aberdeen Airport in fact, and at the moment they can brew around 800,000 litres of beer per year. They started canning their beers in early 2018, and they now have their own bar on Ship Row in Aberdeen, which is of course called the Fierce Bar, but they want to move their brewery to a more kind of central location in the city and have a big brewery restaurant type place. In May of 2019 they also opened a new bar on Rose Street in Edinburgh, and as of July 2019, according to Untappd, they've produced 100 different types of beer. So like I said, this is a brewery in Scotland who very quickly kind of made a name for themselves. They became really well known, and in my mind, from what I remember, it was their fruit beers that really kind of kicked them off, but they were always very good at porters and stouts and things like that as well. But it's cool to see this brewery starting to push its way out of Scotland a little bit and get their export market out there a little bit more. I have seen them over in Scandinavia quite a few times. I'm sure I've seen them in Germany as well when I've been to Munich and things like that, so hopefully the next time I go out to Japan with the girlfriend, we might see them in Koji's shop in Asahi or something like that. It'd be cool to go and to see some more Scottish beers. I think it's only really Brewdog at the moment that we're getting out there in Japan and Korea and stuff like this. But a very good Scottish brewery. If you get the chance to try some of their beers, I do recommend you check out their porters. They're very good at New England IPAs these days as well, and like I said, their fruit beers were always pretty damn good as well, and it's cool to return to these guys after about a year since I reviewed my last one. So yeah, check out their website and follow them on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that, and that'll keep you up to date with all the latest goings on there. I'm curious to see how these guys expand over the next little while. But yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer then. That's all you need to know about both breweries involved here. We can get rid of the brewery notes. So I have to commend Amundsen for the artwork on this one again. You know, it is absolutely lovely. It looks like a kind of a hoppy Optimus Prime or something like that. I do like the almost Transformer style of the artwork on this one. But Amundsen, as I say, have always had some really nice art. The Fierce Beer artwork is a little bit more kind of modern, and you know, it's like newspaper cuttings. I remember the Fierce Beer artwork being like, but it was always quite cool as well. There you can see, there is the Amundsen symbol down there. I think that's a griffin, if I remember correctly, or some kind of hopped up griffin, like a griffin Indian, something like that. And there you can see the Fierce Beer symbol as well, the sort of devilly hop flower, which is kind of cool. This is a 440ml can. It doesn't say too much about it on the thing here, but it says best before the 23rd of the 5th, 2020. So yeah, it's still quite fresh, this one. Let's get it out and we will get on with the taste, and I'm really curious to see how this turns out. And as soon as you open this beer up, you get a hell of a lot of nice juicy fruity aromas coming out of it at you, I should say. And this is going to be one of these nice pale yellow New England IPAs. Yeah, definitely one of the more kind of pale yellowy New England IPAs that I've come across in recent times. So yeah, as you can see with this beer, I wonder if there's a bit of Equinaut in here. There's really a limey quality to this beer. But yeah, as you can see with this one, it's poured a really nice sort of bright light straw golden yellow colour, this one. If I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see it is pretty damn hazy, which is what you'd expect. It's got quite a bumpy head, and if I remember rightly, the Amundsen beers always tend to have more of a bumpy head than a frothy head, if that makes sense. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there, but you know, overall pretty much what you would expect from a New England IPA. So that looks very, very nice actually. I like how this one goes together. This is one of the lighter New England IPAs in terms of colour that I've come across. So yeah, nothing surprising about this one in terms of its appearance. Let's just see how we get on with the aroma then. Yeah, so this is an interesting one. Straight away with this beer, you're getting a little bit of this kind of stronger, more passion fruity, you know, you're getting a good bit of passion fruit. I don't think there's grapefruit in this one. There's mangoes in there, so maybe there's, you know, a little bit of Galaxy and Citra in here. Yeah, I think there is a bit of Galaxy in here. It could be Simcoe. There's definitely passion fruit in here. The two hops, of course, that you're going to get for that are Galaxy and Simcoe. I always like playing Guess the Hops with these New England IPAs, or well, any IPA to be honest. But yeah, for me, passion fruit, mangoes. Definitely a little bit of a kind of papaya kind of quality to this beer as well. It's got a papaya pineapple note, which again is making me think Citra and Galaxy in this one. To me, there's a good presence of lime too. I'm really thinking there is a little bit of Equinaut in here. And I noticed that as soon as I opened up the can, there was just a limey quality came straight out of this one in my mind. Maybe there's a little bit of a gooseberry quality in there, but definitely some really strong lemon limey notes in this one. I mean, if there is a bit of lemon in there, the other hop it could be is Centennial, right enough. But yeah, it's interesting that the aroma. There's so many hops these days. It's kind of difficult to pinpoint exactly what it could be. The other hop, if we're talking about passion fruit and stone fruits and things like that, it could be Eldorado. But yeah, this is a really nice smelling beer, this one. It's got a lovely, quite pungent, but also quite juicy, fruity notes. The fruit to me is quite sharp and pungent in this one. But the malt base is really nice. You can pick up a little, there is a little bit of a kind of astringency from what I suspect would be wheat that's been added into the beer. You can really pick up the wheaty side of this beer a little bit. But you're also getting a nice creaminess from the oats that are in there too. And there's also a little bit of a biscuity sweetness pushing its way out of this beer too. So I mean, in terms of the aroma with this beer, on the malty side of things it's leaning towards the creamier end of the spectrum. On the fruity side of things it's leaning towards the sort of sharper, more pungent side of the spectrum. And on the green side of the hops, for me, this one does have a good bit of grassy character, but it's leaning a little bit more towards the floral side of things, and that's sort of pushing the wheaty side and the sharpness of the fruit out a little bit more as well. So to me, overall, the aroma of this the aroma of this IPA is a little bit more kind of punchy and things like that, which is really nice actually. But I always remember the Amundsen beers having that little bit of sharpness to their aroma, so I'm not at all surprised by that. So overall, in terms of the appearance and the aroma of this beer, there's nothing particularly surprising. We're just commenting on exactly where in the spectrum this beer kind of fits in. But let's have a taste of it now and see how we get on. So this one is the Stardust Galaxies, a New England IPA coming in at 6% ABV from Amundsen Bryggeri in Oslo in Norway, and Fierce Beer from Dyce just outside of Aberdeen in Scotland, where I had some a good number of very happy years in fact. So let's get stuck into this one. Slàinte, skål. Ooh, yeah. That's pretty good actually for me. This one really kind of hits the spot actually. It does have quite a nice bite to it when you take it in, but then it really just smooths out very, very nicely, and it actually becomes quite crisp in the aftertaste, which is really interesting actually. So as I say, bite when you take it in, nice bit of hoppy bite there, smooths out and becomes almost quite sweet in the malt base, and then it just becomes really crisp in the latter part of the beer. This is an interesting one for the transitions that it makes. But it's a really easy drinking New England IPA, this one. It gets a thumbs up from me. Certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink that again. Is it the best beer that I've tried from either of these breweries? You know, it's very strong, but I would say about this one, it isn't the strongest beer I've had from either of them. I mean, Space Tiger from Amundsen is pretty hard to beat, and of course you've got the Very Big Moose it was called, the one that Fierce Beer did with Brewed, that big imperial stout. I need to try a few more New England IPAs actually from Fierce Beer to comment on that fairly. But yeah, this is a really, really nice beer. But just to put it in context, there are stronger beers, I would say, from Amundsen and from Fierce beer, but this one's a really good sessionable beer. At 6%, you know, you can't really say that this one is a sessionable beer, but it really is pretty damn nice, I have to say. I really like how the flavours in this one go together. But as we always say, beer is subjective. Some of you guys might disagree with the statement I've just made there about Space Tiger and Very Big Moose and stuff like this, but you know, this is a really nice beer, and it's cool to see these guys come together. So yeah, let's break down the flavour of this one then. So on the malty side of things, what you're going to notice with this beer is that in the middle of your palate, it's blanketed with just a little bit of pale malt there. You can detect a pale malty element to this beer. On top of that, you start to detect the slightly smoother wheat, and in the very centre of your palate, that's where you're getting the kind of oaty, the slight oaty creaminess out of this beer. And in the very centre of your tongue, that's where you start to get a little touch of the biscuity qualities that this beer have. It does get a little bit sweeter in the centre of your palate, which is quite nice. Like I said, the beer comes in and it's got a little bit of bite to it, but then as you go further into the aftertaste, it actually starts to get a little bit more crisp, if you like. This beer really does kind of lighten up a little bit and give you the mouthfeel. It's one of the more interesting beers, one of the more unusual beers that I've had from either of these breweries, actually, just because of the way the mouthfeel goes. But you can really feel the centre of your palate drying out with this one, and you know, you can really feel the centre of your palate drying out and just becoming very light and crisp, and that makes this a very good kind of sessionable beer in my mind. I really like how it does that, in fact. So you will notice that this beer dries out in the middle of your palate and you start to get a bit more of a kind of grainy quality to this one, which is quite interesting. On the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, there's a little touch of earthiness there. As you come further forward, you start to get more of a kind of floral aromatic note, but the earthiness in fact actually does spread forward a good little bit, but it's nice and kind of floral on the front corners of the tongue, then round the very front curve of the palate it's just that little bit lighter and grassy. And yeah, on the fruity side of things then, as I always say, the fruity esters come out in that little oily bubble behind the front curve of your tongue. For me, I really like the fruity side of this beer as well. That's one of the strongest points about this one, I would say. So if you just go towards the back of that oily bubble, there is a little bit of that darker passion fruit there, but then it starts to become more sort of mango-y and papaya type, I would say. You know, it's got mangoes, it's got papayas, it's got a little bit of pineapple in there as well. So I think there was citra in here. I'm pretty sure there's citra. I think there might be a little touch of galaxy as well. And if you come towards the front of the tongue, I do think there's a bit of a limey presence to this one, so I want to say there's a bit of equinaut in here. I wouldn't be surprised about that. The limey quality is just around. If you just go to the very front tip of your tongue, then behind a little bit, you do start to get those limey qualities just coming out of the beer really quite nicely. There's maybe a little bit of a gooseberry lychee kind of quality to the beer as well, which can be one of the little complexities you can get from citra as well. But overall, this is a really nice beer actually. The more I've drank of it, the more and more I've actually really started to like it. So for me, it's interesting to try a New England IPA. I think this might actually be my first New England IPA from Fierce. I've had a good few from Amundsen. This one, if you compare it to others like, you know, Space Tiger and stuff like that, this one is a little bit kind of toned down, a little bit more sessionable if you like, but really nice and juicy and more kind of creamy compared to some of the other ones that I've had from Amundsen. But I like how all this beer goes together, and it gets a big thumbs up from me. I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. As I said, this isn't the strongest beer, like the boldest beer, I guess you could say, that you're going to find either from Fierce or Amundsen, but it's really pretty damn solid. And you know, when you like tasting different things as I do, you can't really go wrong with this. It's a really nice beer, and it deserves its place on the stage, if you like. It is quite a nice beer, this one. In terms of the mouthfeel then, I would say that this beer is I'd say that it's kind of mid-bodied. Carbonation is quite smooth on this one. It definitely leans towards the smoother side of things, although later in the mouthfeel it becomes quite crisp. Nice little touch of hoppy bitterness in there, but I think we're only talking around 25-ish IBUs, something like that. The malt base, as I said, is quite smooth. There's a little touch of sweetness in there. It becomes crisper later on, and you've got some really nice juicy fruity qualities there. This one really does lean towards the juicy and smooth side of the spectrum when it comes to a New England IPA. But overall, a really solid beer, this one, and I'm glad that I was able to review this one for you here. It was cool to find a half Scottish, half Norwegian beer. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. The Stardust Galaxies, a New England IPA, 6% from Amundsen in Oslo in Norway, and Fierce beer from Dyce just outside of Aberdeen, back home in Scotland. So yeah, really cool to review this one for you, and I hope that you guys have enjoyed my take on this beer. So as always, please let me know your own thoughts on this one in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Fierce Beer and from Amundsen Bryggeri as well, and no doubt I will review some more from both of these in the near future. I will be going to Scotland for a little while at some point fairly soon, so I will be reviewing some more Scottish beers for you over the next little while. But as always, thank you for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. Make sure you check out my social media and try some beers from both of these breweries, because they are pretty damn good. The Stardust Galaxies, a New England IPA from Amundsen in Oslo in Norway, and Fierce beer from Dyce in Aberdeen in Scotland. Slàinte, Skål, Kampai.